What's happening, everyone? Waleed from Moscow Hookah here, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favourite brands to smoke, Kismet tobacco. I'm going to try to keep this video as concise as possible because we've got two pack methods that I want to talk about, and I want to talk about them in great length. So yeah, we'll get into it as soon as possible. But just a brief intro to Kismet. Where does this stuff rank for me? I have a top 5, and Kismet and Must Have regularly compete for the second berth. So it goes Tangiers and then either Kismet or Must Have, depending on my mood that day, that week, that month. And it's mad because those two brands, or even all three brands, they have their own nuances. They have stuff that they excel in, stuff that they're not so great in. They're all very mutually exclusive in terms of how they look, what the cut's like, how the tobacco performs when subjected to a certain degree of heat. But that's probably why I like all three, because they're offering something different to the party. What I'll say about Kismet though, and part of me feels this is a very futile exercise talking about a pack tutorial, because it's hard to get wrong. Kismet, you know, it's so versatile. You know, you can pack it in a multitude of different ways. You'll yield varying degrees of success and, you know, unique experiences depending on how you pack it. But it's pretty idiot-proof stuff. I would say, for me, this is like a grown-up version of Trifecta Dark, where you have an array of really complex flavours, which I'll quickly talk about. But also, preserving those tobacco notes, natural flavour, solid execution of most flavours that they do, but being super, super smooth and taking heat like a champ. All the hallmarks are something that I want to have in regular rotation, as you can see here. There's a few picks, you know, look, best rose on the market for me is Black Rose. You've got Black Cigar, which is a top 10 flavour for me in terms of complexity. Black Sandalwood, a mate of mine recommended this as the white man's pun. He wasn't wrong. I do love pun, and I like this. Probably not for everyone, but again, Kismet do the aromatics really well if you're into that. Black Perfume's another one. Was it called Perfume or just Black Perfume? Perfume. Either way, very, very unique flavour. Black Biscuit, solid cinnamon, if you like Lotus Biscoff biscuits, not desserts. And those sort of, you know, brown buttery, deeply caramelised, intensely spiced biscuits that you would have with your Americano at a cafe. A very good component for dessert mixes. Black vanilla, best vanilla on the market. Forget my opinion, for me. Ask anyone who's tried this and they'll tell you the same. Wild Cherry is probably my favourite flavour from this year, from any brand. This one I am continuously replenishing, as most of you guys know. Black Cane, sat my ass down at the messe, it was so good, tried it for the first time, and I thought, I've got to pay this flavour its due respect. Another pack of Wild Cherry, and then just, yeah, all the bottom here are just re-ups, and there's a load in the cupboard as well. But yeah, this is great stuff. You know, there's so many flavours that, for me, the cherry's the best in the market, the cigar is the best in the market, the rose is the best in the market. They're best in class for a lot of like flavour profiles that a lot of people go for, and it performs extremely well. And that is why these two pack methods exist for me, and because it's testament to how versatile and how heat resilient this stuff is. So enough talking from yours truly. Let me show you a quick close-up of the bowls that I use, why I use them, and I'll let you guys determine which is best, but let's just get into it. So I thought I'd bring the camera closer in for the bowls that I like to use for Kismet. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Alpaca Mini Rook. Don't really need to say too much about this bowl. It's just a great bang for buck bowl, and everyone should really have one in their collection. Trench is not too deep, it's not too shallow, versatile, fits the Provost really well. Get one if you haven't got one. Next one I'd like to talk about is the Mason Shisha Ware Moab Gravel, and this is, as we all know, the collaboration bowl between Mason and Moa Smokes, my mate. Taking my sentiments for Moa to one side, this is an objectively great bowl for the way I like to pack Kismet, which is essentially, it's within range of a semi-dense of 1 to 2 mil under the rim. And this is the point. Would I use this bowl for every brand of tobacco? No. But it's a great bowl for Kismet, same way that the Alpaca Suri, because of its trench shape, how convex it is, the depth of that trench, and how it lends itself to heat in Must Have by way of convection, and why that's a great bowl for Must Have. It's not something that I would necessarily use for Kismet, given how this is designed and how I feel this better lends itself to smoking Kismet. on the way I pack it. So again, that's another one, not as accessible as the mini ruck, but again, it's a great option. One I'm going to talk about today, though, I'm going to be using for this preferred pack method of mine, is the Ascent Shallow Mountain, as I like to call it. So I started off as a customer of Ascent and got the first set of bowls. They were good, a lot of scope for improvement, but if you look at the bowls that Sigur's making now compared to what he started off, the golfing class is remarkable. It's a real testament to the work that he's done, taking on feedback and then just running with it and making great products. This particular one is one that I requested he make for me, and again, really lends itself to this pack method. I probably use this on Kismet specifically once, maybe twice a week. Very, very good shout. So yeah, that'll be for my preferred method, which I'll get to. But the one I want to talk about, because it's pertinent to Kismet, is using this bowl right here. So this is the Vandenberg Ceramics V1. Michael Vandenberg, right behind Kismet. Great bloke, you don't forget him in a hurry. This is the bowl that he makes under the guise of Vandenberg Ceramics. So I've basically, everything that I tried at the Messe was effectively using this bowl with a Lotus Star HMD. And Julian from Shishakuch, which is a very prominent account in Germany, he was actually representing Kismet when we went there, and he packed us a few bowls, and he used this method where he overpacks the bowl and then takes a Lotus Star HMD with coals already in it so that it's been warmed up to some degree, and then just gently placing the tobacco. Tobacco kind of compresses down to what I would imagine being a light dense pack anyway, but it's flush state, and then weigh it down with the HMD with coals in. And I've since tried it. Now, for obvious reasons, this is a big ass bowl, right? And for UPK to overpack a bowl this big, it's not something that I do all that often. But like I said, Kismet is very heat resilient stuff, and it's a unique way of smoking it. And to be honest, from time to time I do enjoy smoking it this way, and I do want to pack it this way because, again, we want to cover all bases. So we'll do that to begin with. I'm going to think about what I'm going to be packing in this bowl because I don't want to allocate too many grams. I'll have a think about that, but yeah, we'll get this sparked up. I'll show you how I'm packing it, and then we'll go from there. So before we get into packing, guys, I want to show you the actual tobacco that we're talking about. So some wild cherry, again, like I said, one of my favourites. And this is what puts people off Kismet. Some of the time it's the cut. It's not the best. It's quite choppy, can be quite broad. The issue being is that it can be cumbersome achieving a certain pack when it's so choppy. So all I'd suggest really is that if you do find it difficult to pack in a certain way, then just take a pair of scissors and chop it down if you need to. Me personally, I'll just pack Kismet as it is, with no real issues. Even some of the stems go in, but yeah, whatever you feel is necessary. And also, it's not normally this juicy. Black cherry I've found to be wild cherry, I mean, I've found to be juicier than some other flavours. For example, black cigar's a bit drier than this. But other than that, it's fairly pliable stuff. It's reasonable to work with. So we'll get to that, and we'll pack some of that in a second. The bowl is ready to go. So let's just get into packing it. I was going to let gravity do its work. You can use your hands or whatever you prefer, and just as much as possible try not to compact it, because we're going to let the HMD do our work for us in that regard. And that's about it, really. A few stray leaves we can dust them into the bowl. But yeah, in terms of the height, it's probably looking a bit like this. And like I said, when you compress your HMD, it'll probably land on a light dent. All I'm going to do is just rearrange the leaves so that nothing gets lost to the stem or the outside. I still want to retain as much of this as possible. The fact that it's a funnel helps. And we're just gonna move the leaves around, make it as even as possible. Stray leaves, I'm going to dash them here as well. And then I'm just going to poke into the tobacco without disrupting it too much. So again, it's I'm sure many have seen heavier overpacks, but given how shallow the bowl is, I think that's sufficient for what we're after. So we'll get this sparked up shortly with the Onmo and 3 sets of coconut coals, and we'll go from there. Well guys, next method, we're going to get the scent packed up with some of this lovely Kismet. So this is a premix that I've, for both bowls, so I'm using the same one. It's just literally a mix of wild cherry, black biscuit, black vanilla and black cane. So what I'm going to do, because again the bowl's quite shallow, I'm going to be, it's quite sticky stuff, I'm going to be fluffing it as best as I can to pretty much the rim level. If I was to do a dense pack on this bowl, or a light dense pack on Tangiers, I'd go a bit higher, but this will be sufficient. So here, we're going to be, like I said, it's to the rim, as opposed to a bit higher on a semi-dense, for the simple reason that I do still like a degree of convection with this pack, i.e. want to see melon to the rim normally for Kismet. And because it's so shallow, you can't go too high when you're initially decanting your tobacco. And probably get away, get a few more leaves in there. Just adjust things. There's some leaves missing. And that is where I would start, and then all I would do, so it really depends on Tangiers. When I'm going for a light dense, I tend to use my fork just to keep it as level as possible. With this, I'm just using my poker to kind of rearrange the leaves, probably get some coarser leaves. And again, if you want to take the stems out like so, you can do. We're just going around the bowl and adjusting the leaves. So if I rotate it like such, now things are getting in the right place. We can just sort of judge if the height's correct. Again, if you wish to take the stems out, you can do. They won't distort your session. The odds, I've said this before, particularly on Kismet, it's not going to cause you many issues. It feels a bit clumpy around here. Yeah, again, I mean, I feel, again, we've got some clumpier leaves, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to take some more pliable leaves and just replace them, and that's all you do. It's trial and error like anything. I'm going to put this in as well. Yeah, it's going to be, this is what I'm saying, not all the leaves are going to be as chunky as that one I just took out. But like I said, you just put it back into the container, and then when you get to the bottom of the pack, you should have a bunch of leaves which are fairly broad. And then you can just chop them as in when you need to. But as you can see, look, I'm on the must-have tutorial, this is going straight through here. You know, you can see they are grouped together. They are bunched up a lot more tightly, but there's still porosity in there. I'm just gonna do that now. So that's what I say, that's what I would tend to do on something like Kismet. and it's been working a treat for me. So I'll get this foiled up and we'll get the provost on and we'll see how this particular session compares. Back from a couple of errands, but we're about to have this overpacked Vandenberg with the mix that we made earlier. So what we do is we add the coals with the HMD on top, ideally at a set temperature anyway. Don't preheat by putting your HMD or your Onmo on the burner. Definitely would recommend that. But what you can do, like what I've done, don't really want to tilt it, but the HMD is in there. There's 2 coals in there to start with. You can Mickey Mouse arrangement, but I'm just thinking if you're going to take them and put them there, the safest way is 2 coals. So I'm going to stick these on, prepare for some Shisha ASMR. And on top we go. So now the tobacco is compressed, it's already cooking, so we can smoke imminently. Right guys, sorry about that brief interlude. Now with this method, when you put the coals on, you're at the races and you need to get token away because it's already cooking. Not the low and slow method that we like to employ normally. That being said, and obviously I've had to readjust the camera angle because it was all over the shop. You can tell I'm not used to doing this method all that often, but here's what it is. Let's take that first toke. Can you really question this cloud output though? Honestly. Let's go again. Now, with Kismet, you don't get this sort of throw kick overpacking it that you would on other brands, right? So Mustang's a good example. That's one that's close to my heart. So in that respect, it's more to really demonstrate the versatility of this brand. This isn't my preferred method for it. It's something that I do enjoy on occasion. At the last Keckers meetup, I actually did it this way with a similar mix. So I've done wild cherry, black biscuit, black cane, and black vanilla as well. So it's more desserty. What I did in the meetup was basically that minus the wild cherry and even thirds. And it came out, it sort of translated like a gobstopper, but the fireball gobstoppers that we had as kids as a bit of a dare. Might not sound too pleasant, I grant you that. However, it's not bad. I'm quite enjoying it, I must say. So like I said, that output's very good. The flavour's not distorted a great deal, like you would assume it might be on a pack like this. You probably won't know this now, so the first 20-30 minutes of the session aren't bad at all. It's actually really enjoyable, depending on what your preferences are and how seasoned a smoker you are. That being said, what I dislike about this method, in the fact that it's not optimal, and it really isn't compared to the one that I normally employ, is what you'll find is you're going to be cooking the tobacco, the top layer, that'll be fairly well cooked, but because there's not enough porosity in the bowl, just by dint of the fact that you're kind of densing it down to something resembling a light dent, the airflow within the actual trench is hindered. So you need to be very particular with the heat management with this method in terms of introducing maybe a second round of coals. The Onmo doesn't come with a lid. That's the advantage of using a Lotus compared to an Onmo, in that you do have a lid so you can regulate the temperature and you can introduce a bit more heat that way, using a wing cover. But yeah, cooking that bottom third of the bowl can be quite cumbersome using this method, so I don't tend to use it all that often. The other thing that I don't like specifically about this bowl, I've used it because obviously it is a good bowl, but it's a big capacity bowl, it's not something that I'm used to. So what I would suggest is using a shallow bowl. You could probably use a Bambino with this method, and you'll probably be, I'd wager, probably up to a third of the tobacco that I'm using right now. So by all means, try this method out. It works. It does work. I think we can establish that. For me, there's a better way of doing it, but at the end of the day, preference, it's really down to who you are and what you like to smoke. But in all honesty, I do enjoy this method for what it is. On that note, I'm going to take another toke, see how it's pluming. Why do we do this? We want big cloud up, and you get it this way. And like I said, it's not as coarse as you would assume. You know, if you were to do this method on something like Must Have, it's a different thing altogether. That's why I like Kismet, and I think that's why I'm showing this method, really just to demonstrate the versatility of the brand. Right, I'm going to enjoy this for however long I'm able to enjoy it for. Once I've KO'd the session, we'll move on to the preferred method, which is using a quality handspun bowl like the Ascent Shallow Mountain, like I've got there, and semi-dense, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the other side. One more toke though. I hate that, I love it, but what are you going to do? Alright, I'll see you guys soon. We're on to bowl 2 now, so that would mean that we've KO'd the first bowl, overpacked with the Onmo HMD. The enjoyable element of that way of doing it, if you want to call it that, is it's great, you know, but unfortunately the flavour does start to turn quite quickly, and there is a point where it cools off a bit too much because you've already cooked a sufficient amount of the top layer with the overpack, and then trying to manage the heat, regulating it, becomes quite cumbersome. There's that kind of sweet spot where it gets a bit too cool, you add your second round of coals, and then it gets a bit too hot. And I'm introducing coals well before the hour mark as well, to make sure it's at a sort of, well, trying to keep the heat at a moderate, stable level. So, not ideal. It can be a bit of a faff, but once in a while I go back to it because, like I said, the element that I do, or the period of that session that I do enjoy is very enjoyable for me. But that being said, that's what we're all here for, is to enjoy a stable session where you have full body flavour, big cloud output, and a moderate level of heat for as long as possible. And I think doing it this way, the conventional way, is the way to go, semi-densing it with a just under the rim, essentially. So what I've just realised as well is that I've not demonstrated how I've foiled the bowl and heat managed it, so apologies for that. But if you want to know a bit more about that, just go back to my Must Have video, which is also on my channel. It's essentially the same thing. It's applying foil, perforating the holes in a similar way that I've done here to achieve a value neutral draw, and sort of having that balance between it not feeling too vapey, but then also having sufficient airflow within the bowl. Whilst I'm here, I've actually talked about the setup. So we've got the Ascent Shallow Mountain, and paired with the stunning all black Caesar rock base, and it's really on theme. A lot of people clown on the Tyrant, okay? I know people are balking at it already. Look, I got it from the Messe. I'm trying to, I don't know, it's flashbacks to the Messe with this episode. And for the £140, I think it was, that I spent at the time, I could do a lot worse. But in terms of the aesthetic, I really like how this is all looking. So anyway, I'm going to wait for the bowl to heat up because we're afforded a bit of time doing it this way. Once it's up to temperature, we'll start moving and we'll see how this one compares. Right then guys, so natural order is restored. We've waited about 6 minutes, the bowl is to temp, only one thing to do. And that right there is the Kismet I know and love. Bear with me. Yeah, oh yeah. Ripping on 2 coals. Amount of tobacco I've got in there, it's probably going to be 9 to 10 grams given how shallow the bowl is, probably less. This session will push the brand to its absolute limits in my opinion. Like I said, everything that was cumbersome about that method does not apply here. It's just a simple case of introducing heat by taking the provost lid into the tray gradually as the session progresses, and then introducing a second round of coal once you start to sense that the bowl is cooling even with the lid fully on. So again, for something of this ilk or this sort of capacity bowl, I'll probably introduce that second round a bit sooner than say something like the mini ruck or the gravel. But again, full body flavour, all the tobacco notes that Kismet's known for are there. This mix is wonderful. Whilst we're on the topic, that wild cherry is beautifully tart and not too sweet, and I love that about that cherry, because the same can't be said for many cherries on the market, which is why for me this one blows every other cherry out of the water. It's not a flavour profile I gravitate to, but this one's just so good. And that's basically where I'm coming from with Kismet. A lot of the flavours that I really enjoy from them, they're not typical flavours that I go for in other brands, like the desserty kind of gastronomic, spicy flavours like biscuit, for instance, vanilla, black cane. I'm a mint head, I'll obviously go for that. But this is a very, very beautiful, harmonious mix of spices. You got the creaminess of the vanilla coming through. It's rich, it's creamy, it's flavourful. There's sweetness from the cherry. It's everything you want. And once more, this will be a lot easier to manage, and I think I'll yield more positive results from this session. Like I said, I'll always gravitate to that one on occasion, but I smoke Kismet pretty much daily, and this is the way I do it. So I think that's about it. I'm just going to enjoy this session because I'm sensing the video is already long enough as it is. I'm going to continue to smoke this beautiful bowl. By all means, usual thing, if anyone has any queries, just put them down in the comment section down below. By all means, you can always message me on Instagram. I'm fairly active there anyway. Ask away, because this is one brand that I'm happy that it's starting to get the credence outside of Germany that I feel it warrants. It's top 5 for me for a reason. If you can get your hands on it, I'd recommend doing so as soon as possible, because I don't know what this new laws entail in terms of smaller packages. I'm hearing 25 grams, which is ridiculous to me. So I'm just enjoying Kismet as it's being sold at this moment in time. So if you get your hands on it, give it a go, try some of the various different flavours that they've got. They've got so many to choose from. And like I said, in terms of the execution of these flavour profiles, that's where Kismet excels for me. On that note, one more toke and I'll leave you guys to it. All the best, everyone. Take care of yourselves.